Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. And a couple of housekeeping items. One, I've got the screen off to the left of me so that I can see all of you. And then I have the camera that I can look at as I speak and look like I'm talking to you. It'll be a little different as I go back and forth. So forgive me if it doesn't look like I'm looking right at you. I actually am. I'm just not looking at the camera. Go ahead and mute all your microphones. If you want to ask a question, I would say in the moment, go ahead and unmute your microphone and ask the question. Just say, excuse me, or however you want to interrupt us. Say, hey, Schuyler, and just ask the question. I think it'll help Christian and I work through the content much better if you guys are interactive and we have questions to actually answer. Otherwise, I'll present the slides that we have and the content that I've prepared for this. Jumped in when he has something to add, and I'll throw Christian questions here and there to give him some things to talk about too. But we're here for you. We want it to be valuable, so go ahead and just ask questions as we go. You guys know the topic of today, what we're going to talk about, and that's partnerships. And I'm going to do some high level reasons why you would have a partnership, and then I'm going to dive down into the specifics. But I just want to remind everybody, for those of you that are new, because we've got several people that are new onto the webinar today, just why I do the corporate battlefield and the intent of it, and where it came from and all of that. So first, selfishly, I created this group so that I could consume more lessons learned from other people. So if you've been to our previous events, you know that we often bring in guest speakers to speak and teach us about wealth building and leadership. And it was initially it was a selfish endeavor. I'm reading a bunch of books. I'm running my businesses. I wanted more, so I was bringing in speakers that I want to speak and teach me so that I can run my businesses more effectively. But the name itself, Corporate Battlefield, came from just an idea that I have that there is a battle between good and evil every day that's out there, and it doesn't matter if you want to pay attention to it or just not pay attention to it. It's taking place, and on one side, what I would say the good side, there's hope, faith, and love that's being distributed. On the other side, there's the evil that's out there, deception, the division, and there's a battlefield, and again, some of us are going to be proactive in that battle, and some of us aren't. But what I believe and what I'm trying to accomplish with this group is that in corporate America, we are all leaders, and we could have an impact on moving the world from evil to good. And to do that, I think it takes power, influence, and wisdom. The class material, like the learning every day, the getting better, the making the best of your failures and your experience, that's the wisdom part of it. And we're going to get that as we rise up in responsibility and as we learn more. The power and influence, it not only comes from positional authority within your organization, but I believe it comes through money, unfortunately. So the purpose of this group is to help good people become better leaders and to become wealthier people over time so that we can go and have a great impact for good in the world. So there you have it. That's my whole purpose of this. And I hope as you value the content, I hope that you'll help us with this effort as well. For those of you that don't know who I am, I spent some time in the military as an Army officer. I was fortunate enough to fight in both of the wars that we were in while I was serving in Iraq and Afghanistan. I did the Ranger, I did the Airborne, I did all the cool things that the Army can provide you opportunities to do. It wasn't a great fit for my family. Just the time away from the family wasn't a good fit, so I decided to leave the military. And I've been in real estate ever since departing the military in some capacity or another. Now I do have 4 businesses. We have a real estate sales We have a construction company. We build luxury homes here in Central Austin. I own a laundromat company. We have 4 big stores in West Texas that wash a lot of clothes. And then we have the corporate battlefield here. So I'm a serial entrepreneur, for better or for worse. So that'll be my experience, and that'll be when I'm speaking about partnerships and my approach to it and what I've learned. That's going to be where the content's coming from. And this is my good friend, mentor, and my paid professional that takes care of us, Christian. I'm going to let Christian share his experience so that you guys know who you're hearing from when he speaks up. But I can't validate his experience and his competency enough. We trust him a lot, and just having him on the call today is just a great gift, I think, for all of us. So, Christian, I'll give you a second to introduce yourself.
Well, thanks, Schuyler. Those are kind words, maybe more than I deserve. But so I'm a corporate M&A lawyer in San Antonio. I went to Baylor Law School, got out in 08, 09. I've been practicing ever since. My practice focuses on acquisitions, dispositions, real estate, commercial stuff, as well as kind of your general all-encompassing corporate world. What it doesn't include is litigation or family law or trusted estates. So anything that's transactional in nature, I've probably touched on in some form or fashion in my career. That's kind of the high level. I've got 3 kids, and we live here in San Antonio where it's nice and quiet. And Schuyler doesn't make me drive to Austin too much and deal with the traffic. So it's nice.
No, I wouldn't wish that on anybody. All right. Thanks, Chris. Okay. Jumping into the meat of the content here. So why would we create a partnership? Well, for me, the natural answer, and probably why most of you are on the call, is it is a source of funds. Every investment that we want to make, it requires equity. It will require as much equity as the bank would require if you're going to get a loan to make that investment, or it will require as much equity as it costs to actually make the investment if you're going to purchase the whole thing with cash, or it will require as much equity as it takes to mitigate the risk. The more cash you have into the deal, the lower the risk because of the less debt. So to me, there's multiple reasons, but they all kind of come back to equity. And a lot of people create partnerships to get access to more equity than they have disposable to themselves. I create partnerships again. I identify risk. Even if I can take a deal down myself, I have enough equity to go buy that asset on my own. I value spreading risk out, and I don't mind sharing the return to get access to a lower risk. So that would be a good point. Again, you all know, if you know me, you know that I'm always looking to learn. And when you choose the right partners, you will get access to information and experience in the assets that you're investing in that can actually help you be more successful. I mean, these folks are going to invest with you. They're going to partner with you, not only to get a return on their money, but to make sure that they get that return, they're going to make you better. And I just believe that's a big part of it. These folks that have experience in investing, they have access to a network of people that can help you be successful as far as trades or suppliers or industry professionals. I'm in a partnership that the result of that partnership introduced me to Christian. And before Christian, we weren't exactly happy with our attorney, but thankfully one of my partners made that introduction, and thankfully Christian took my phone call, and we found that relationship. So you're always thinking about how you can better your core team, and your partners can help you improve that core team over time by just introducing you to higher levels of talent. And then kind of a side benefit here is you can actually generate some revenue. Some people make a living off of the management fees that they collect to manage the partnerships that they're in. that's never been our approach with why we create partnerships, but I know that's a big business, and it might be a reason why. So how would you go and start a partnership? The best definition of this that I have, and maybe and we'll get into maybe some blocking and tackling a little bit. There was a story that I heard Gary Keller tell, and the story kind of goes like this. He's sitting down with one of his friends, and he's saying, how you doing? How's your investment journey going? And the friend, he hemmed and hawed and said, it's not going too well. And Gary's, well, why aren't things going well? And the guy said, I just don't have a lot of money to invest. And Gary's very quick answer to that was, you don't have a money problem. Your problem is you don't have a great deal to invest in. If you found a great opportunity to invest in, the money will show up. It'll show up. And I mean, Kristen, you can validate this. You make a living off of partnerships showing up. I mean, when there's a good deal, the money shows up. There's plenty of people with money, right? And you see different people every day in these partnerships, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of money out there, and understanding what deals to take and what deals to turn down is going to be a key to how successful you can be. So you're right on point there, Scott.
Yeah. So your job would not be to stress over creating the partnership. Your job would be, well, go find a great deal. And if you go find a great deal, you'll find one person, maybe like me or maybe like Christian, who will introduce you to plenty of people that will bring you the money to get the deal done. And they'll even hold your hand and walk you through the partnership creation process. So if you find that opportunity, then the next thing would be, well, who do you want as a partner on this endeavor that you're going to accomplish? And for me, I know all great relationships kind of start and end with trust. As long as you have someone's trust, more times than not, you're going to have a pretty good relationship with that person, especially if it's a professional relationship. And because of that, I like to start with people that I know. So when I bring an opportunity to partners to invest, I'm not bringing them the scraps. I'm bringing them deals that I know are going to be successful. I have no doubt about it. So asking my friend to be a part of a deal with me, I don't feel bad about that. I don't feel scared about it. I don't feel anxious about it. I feel like I'm bringing them an opportunity. I'm bringing them value in their life. So I like to start with people I know. I like to start with people I trust. I like to start with people that are already in the industry of which my investment's in. And we happen to be in real estate. So I like to go to people that are already investors in real estate because I know they bring that experience with them. They know what the risks are. I don't have to be so concerned about spelling out every little thing that is a risk. They know it. They're going to bring value to me and like, hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And I just think there's just lots of value that comes with that. And then I would say you want to partner with wealthy people. Now I'll let you define what wealthy is. There's lots of different definitions of that. But I will say this, if you're a person like me that genuinely cares for the relationships you're involved with, if someone gave you a large portion of their net wealth to go invest, and we investors know that there's risk in investment, but if they gave you a large portion of their wealth to go invest for them, look, as the one that organized the opportunity, there's going to be some anxiety there around that because you don't want to hurt that person that you're in business with. You love them. They trust you. So for me, the way that I've overcome that is one, focus on the deal, only bring great deals, but two, invest with people that have great amount of wealth, that they understand the risk. And if they lose, it's not going to disrupt their whole life. And then finally, I would just say people that make you better. In everything I do, I just try to surround myself with people that push me in all the areas of life that I truly care about. And I'm not trying to get involved in a relationship with somebody that's not going to make me better. If I did, it was a mistake, and I won't do it again. Any on who to partner with, Christian? Any lessons learned just from what you've had to deal with that you might point out? Oh, I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. I think I told you, Schuyler, early on when we were talking, you asked me, do you have time for us? And I said that, hey, we make time for serious clients who are serious about what they're doing. We make time to do their work. And I think that the same thing goes for, who you partner with. You want to partner with people who are serious, and who are interested in getting into the details of, how things work and understanding the risk. And your comment about wealthy people, I mean, you don't want to partner with people who are trying to overextend themselves, both from a practical standpoint and from a legal standpoint. And you'll touch on this, I think, in the next slide on accredited investors. I mean, people need to understand that deals involve risk.
Yeah.
And that the risk is the loss of their investment.
Yeah.
That's just the reality of investing. So
yeah, that's a great point, Chris. And I'll just take it a step further and say, as the person that runs the deal, if you're the managing partner and you've overextended yourself, you're going to have emotions in that deal that aren't fair to the rest of the partners. Your intentions have to remain pure and dedicated to the intent and the outcome of that partnership. And if you are the one that overextends because your wealth is not in order, you've made too many investments, or you've overextended your lifestyle, whatever that might be, that might be the worst outcome of what we're talking about now. So you've got to and I've done this. I've brought deals to the table where I was the managing partner and I participated in kind of the upside beyond the preferred return, but I wasn't an equity partner in the deal. And that was because I knew at this moment, the cash that I had in the bank needed to stay in the bank for this moment in my business life cycle. And yet I know this is a great deal. And I believe in running this deal for my partners. I'm going to take it to my partners, give them the opportunity, and I'm going to run the deal, even though I'm not an equity contributor to it. And some people, they'll say, look, I don't like to invest with people that didn't put their own money in the deal. And that, you know what? I understand why they say that, and I'm good with that. What I would say is, as your track record grows of producing results, people won't necessarily care how much money you put in it. They'll just go back to the deal at hand and your results of being a producer in the area that you're actually investing in. Okay. So what do partners want from you? The person that's bringing the opportunity, that's organizing the deal, the partnership, that's going to manage this thing. The first thing that they want is to have that trust. So if you're meeting someone for the first time, and to some extent you're prospecting for a partner to come into your deal, you need to understand that the deal matters a lot, but the first thing that you have to accomplish is to establish trust. And in my world, I look for track record to give my trust away. And I'm very quick to give my trust. But what I want to hear is, at every step of your life, and every component of your life, how have you been successful? So were you successful in school? Were you successful in the sports? What kind of teammate were you? Are you successful in your family? Are you leading your family the right way? Are you thinking the right things for your personal business? Have you been successful in investing? What I'd like to hear is, yes, 1 million times in a row, hey, this person's been successful. So if I come to you and say, hey, here's my opportunity. Oh, by the way, I've done this a couple dozen times before, and here's my track record. We've got a system for doing this. Here's our model. Here's how we deploy it. Here's the people that we have already investing with us, and kind of our history with them. And I come to you and I show you all this. I mean, you're going to say, okay, well, he's got success in his history. He's got a model in place. He's already working with some great talent that I know is going to make the team better. I'm going to trust this person. And so your job would be to come in and show high levels of character, high levels of success in your past. Your overall, you got to demonstrate your intelligence, which ultimately is going to give them peace that you're going to be able to solve the problem. You got to have a thought out plan in place. You're going to show them that you are a person that thinks through how you're going to execute this. And then I think the last component, and I'll let Kristen jump in here, is I think you got to have a great team. So you talk a little bit about your accountant, talk a little bit about the people that work for you, talk about your attorney, and talk about that team that you've already organized to make this deal be successful. So, Kristen, about the team, what parts of the team that you think is important when you're going to make a partner feel safe that they're taken care of?
I don't know if partners can appreciate this, but I can tell you, if you're running a deal, a good accountant is one of the best resources that you can have. I mean, it's hands down, a good accountant is one of the best. Certainly we want to say that, good legal work is important too, which it is. But really having your team not function as silos, but having your team work together. I can't tell you how many times being able to work as a lawyer with an accountant on a particular issue has made all the difference in how we, one, structure a deal, how we paper a deal, and how we can explain that deal from a technical standpoint to the people who are investing it and the people who are running it. I mean, if you don't know what's in your documents or why you record transactions the way you do, what benefit is that to you or your partners?
Yeah.
So having a team that can communicate with each other is important.
Yeah. And I would just move the second half of this slide is just a general targets at what you're going to try to accomplish financially for your investors. But these are kind of the things that I'm seeing the most. Most investors, they want a dividend. They want some cash flow coming back on the money that they provide. At least the investors that we work with, and certainly that's a norm in real estate, that you would get some cash flow from that asset. 8% cash on cash return, 50% IRR, and then most investors want some sort of a preferred return. 7% is kind of what I'm seeing in most docs that are presented to me today. Beyond all that, what I would say is an investor wants a good return. They don't have to have a great return. They want a good return with a very manageable risk. If you can promise that to your investors, they're going to be happy. Remember, you're working with wealthy people now. So wealthy people, they don't have to hit a home run every time they step up to the plate. They will hit doubles over and over and over again, and they will accomplish every goal that they need to accomplish. What they don't want is somebody that's going to go up there swinging for the fence and strike out. That's what they don't want. So I would just focus on a good investment at a manageable risk, and that will make people happy. That'll attract people to you. All right. So how have I been successful at going and attracting partners into my life? And those of you that know me know that I'm not a super outgoing person. I can act like it from time to time, but I'm just not. But I do understand the value in constantly networking. So I make it a point to add 3 to 5 people, new people, to my database, which is where I capture all of my relationships every week, and it's not because it fulfills me as a person. I just need more relationships in my life. There's a business intent to it, and when I'm meeting new people, the main thing that I'm after is, well, how can I help you? What value can I provide to your life? And some people are going to tell you right out, like, I'm in the wealth building period of my life. It's a number one priority for me. I've got money sitting idle that I need to deploy. And when they hear you talk about yourself and what you've been able to do in your career and kind of what your focus is, they'll get very excited about that, and they will want to hear more, and they will want to be in relationship with you. And then it's just a matter of, okay, well, do they fit that criteria that we've already talked about as far as being a good partner for us? But you constantly network, and I would say the more you network, the easier it gets, because I made this bullet point down here that eagles fly with eagles. Eagles don't fly with pigeons. And when you get connected with an eagle, and you ask that person, hey, who else do you know that I can speak with that that would enjoy visiting with me and that would enjoy looking at some of these opportunities too? They're going to have great people to share with you. And it's funny. I can't tell you how predictable it is. When you talk to one person and they introduce you to somebody, they're going to sound like the next one. And then that person's going to sound like the next one. And now, they all kind of seem the same. They all care about the same. They all are about the same amount of wealth. And you know what? It makes sense, because if they're hanging out on the weekends, they're going to sound the same. They're talking about the same things. So I think that networking piece, even if you're not an extroverted person, having that solve a business issue for you, you should approach it that way. And I am very business minded, so I think of it as a sales funnel. Okay, networking is I need leads for people to meet with. So what are all the ways that I'm going to go out and create a sales funnel to funnel in new people into my life so that I can meet with them? And to some extent, you all here have come into my sales funnel with people that I can go network with. And I'll be intentional about it. I'm going to have a relationship with as many people as I can to see how I can provide value to their life. And I know that if I do that for you, it'll come back to me. I'd like to think that I'm a humble person, but you have to get in a rhythm of telling people that you're successful. When you share with people your story and you share the success that you're achieving, they will naturally reach out to you and raise their hand and say, hey, I want to have a little bit of what you have. Okay. It may not be exactly what you have, but they want to have it. So when you're just remember that you need to be humble, but you also need to share what you're great at, and just understand that if you present that the right way, you will meet more people that want to be in business with you, and they'll partner with you. Part of that is creating a brand. So we have our business brands, but I tell everybody in my company, and I tell my kids at home, and my daughter's name is Bo. I say, Bo, at school, when people hear the name Bo Williamson, what do they think? What do they think? What are the first couple of things you think they'll say about you? And my point to her is, you should live a life, a purposeful life. And that includes what your brand is. So when someone hears the name Schuyler Williamson, I want everybody to say the same thing. And I pray for that in the morning. It's a part of my prayer time where I desire people to know that I'm someone they can depend on, that they can come to for counsel, that they know that I'll drop whatever I'm doing to help them out. Like, I pray for that. So what I put out to the world, it's got to resemble that. And I'm managing that brand. And I believe that if you manage your brand appropriately while you're constantly networking and sharing your victories, you're going to attract the right people. And then again, we started with this, but look, if you find an extraordinary opportunity, people are going to be knocking on your door to talk to you about it. There's just no doubt about it. So to some extent, if you don't want to do everything that I just said, then go find a great opportunity and tell somebody that likes to tell a lot of people about it, and they will bring people to you. And I've done that before too. I've got people in the industry that if they wanted to, they could see me as a competitor, right, in a sales environment. But when you have a great deal, you got a great deal, and you go to them, you say, hey, look, I'm putting together some people to go accomplish this opportunity here. And, do you have any investors in your database that you think would be a part of it? And they're going to go help you grow the partnership because they're in the business of providing value to the people in their database. So they're going to do that. You just have to ask them. But it all starts with a deal. I missed anything here, Christian? Any thoughts you have on this one?
Oh, right there with you.
Okay, good. Okay. So we've got the deal. We know who we want to be in business with. We've attracted some people to us. Now, how do we go and structure that partnership? And to me, yeah, I think hopefully Christian didn't belittle his role in this whole thing. But I think an attorney, and certainly what he said, a great accountant, they will help you structure the deal if you have no experience structuring deals. When I came to Christian, we had done a handful of deals with another attorney, and I was very open with him. I was like, hey, this is our structure as we've been doing it today. Okay. And I said, here from a deal point of view, from a return, from what I promised the investors, here's what I promised. Okay. Can we do it better? And I thought his approach was pretty awesome. He said, look, let's change a few things right away. I have some thoughts. Let's change a few things right away to make sure that everybody, both sides of the partnership, are protected. And then as we move in the future, we're going to tackle some of these other little things that I'd like you to change as we grow the business. And I thought, man, I really felt like I was in good hands when he did that, because he identified some things that needed to be fixed right away, and then he went further. And I'm going to give Christian some time to talk on this, but I can't stress enough, having those partners on your team that, and not equity partners, but having those teammates that can bring you coaching and bring you ideas on how to do things the right way. Can't overestimate that. Hey, and I would say, look, the attorney we had before Christian, no offense to Christian, the attorney we paid for ahead of Christian was much cheaper than he is, but you get what you pay for. All right. You've got to create the right entity. I'll let Christian talk about the entity and what his thoughts are on that. But I think you got to account for the risk management of things. And I think what you got to do that well is you've got to protect yourself. First off, you got to think through what could go wrong for you. And then I think you have to put yourself in your partner's shoes and say, well, what would I be worried about if things went poorly? I think unless you remove yourself from your current position and you put yourself in their shoes, it's going to be really hard for you to be creative and to really account for their risk. And you really should be you really should be protecting their risk as much as your own. I mean, it's a partnership. Your teammates, you're winning together. I mean, I told you, I go to my friends first. I'm not trying to take advantage of anybody. I want it to be clear. I want it to be simple, and I want it to be fair. And then the last thing that I would say is just be thorough. And I'm not saying you need 60 pages of agreement. What I'm saying is be thorough in addressing what could happen. Because if something bad does happen, and you have people you care about involved in the partnership, you want the contract to guide that. You don't want to have to hash that out with the team right there together when emotions are high and maybe you failed on something that maybe you shouldn't have. You want that to already be agreed upon, and we let the contract dictate what's going to happen. So I'll stop there, but Kristen, if you could touch on a few things that you think are really important on this part.
Yeah. So I think the best example that I can give is I like to work with my hands and do stuff around the house and I think have developed some skill at it over the years, maybe. But I had a slab leak a couple months ago, and I called a plumber, and I know some about plumbing. I I'm a reasonably smart guy. I can look at YouTube and figure out what's going on. But I called a plumber, and he was, the way he technically evaluated the issues and the problem was totally different than how I would have approached it. And lawyers are the same way. Look, what we do is it's not rocket science. Rocket science is rocket science. And there are lots of people who can say, well, I put a document together. But what you're looking for in a lawyer and an accountant is someone who is a technician, effectively, in what they do. And I can't stress for you enough how important the documentation that you put together with your partners is. I mean, it's effectively, Schuyler's pointing to it, it's the prenup. Partnerships are like a marriage. And, over time, interests sometimes diverge, and you need clear lines of communication, you need clear lines of authority, and clear objectives in those agreements so that, when and if there is a dispute, you can figure out how to move forward and still preserve either the partnership, the relationship, or the potential profit. When you miss some of those things, I mean, I can't tell you how often I've seen deals go sideways because the documents were just sloppy. And your point about a 60-page document is well said. Length does not mean better. And so when you're looking at, I think, an attorney or an accountant or a tax advisor, one of the most important things that you can look for is thoughtfulness, because there are a lot of attorneys out there. Let me give you an
I can't hear him either. So let's see if he'll come back to us.
Schuyler, am I back?
You're back.
Okay. I don't know where I got cut off, but what I was going to say, the most important thing in an advisor is finding someone who's thoughtful and technically sound.
Yeah.
And who isn't trying to, who really will meet you where you are, and help you to understand why it is they're recommending a particular course of action.
Yeah. Well, I would say too, is invested in being a great teammate too. Look, if you hung around me long enough, you would start to understand that I see the upside. I always see the upside. I'm not a super pessimistic person. It's just not, it doesn't come natural to me. Now I can, first thing in the morning, I can put on my glasses and I can look through something and ask myself, well, where are we going to go wrong here? And I do that, but it doesn't come natural to me. And I think, Christian in my life, he'll just know that, okay, every time I talk to Schuyler, he only talks about the positive things that can happen here. Let me just point out a few things, just so he's grounded in what has happened. And he doesn't have to tell me that. What he has to do is say, he has to tell me that so that he knows that I've thought about it. That's what he's got to do. He's not checking to see if I know that can happen. I know that can happen. Have you thought about it? Like what happens when that happens? Okay.
Yeah. One other comment I'll make is when you think about legal, tax, accounting advisors, look, those are not wealth creation functions, but they are wealth preservation functions.
Yeah.
And you can, if it's not done correctly or well, and there are lots of ways to do things well, it can create real risk within your system.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, Christian. most of the folks on here will be organizing partnerships on kind of deal opportunities. There are some small business owners here.
Yeah.
You just hit on a couple of like tactical level entity type reasons why you might, from a legal standpoint, do one versus the other.
Sure. So, Schuyler, for example, you use a lot of limited partnerships. And I think a lot of you in the real estate focused area will see the use of limited partnerships. The other entity that you'll see the most is a limited liability company or LLC. They provide similar protection, but they function in a very different way. Limited partnerships are creatures of statute. And so the Texas Congress has said, we're going to write some rules that dictate how limited partnerships work. And effectively, the limited partners, the passive investors, they are statutorily prohibited from participating in the management of the entity. The general partner is statutorily in control of everything. The challenge there, though, is that the general partner is generally liable for the debts and obligations of the partnership. So oftentimes what you'll see the general partner being another entity. On the flip side, LLCs are very flexible because the legislature has said, hey, these are creatures of contract. And so whatever the members or the partners agree in their contract, which is usually called a company agreement, that's going to control the rights, obligations with respect to economics and management of that entity. You can get to the same result with both structures, but how you get there is a little bit different. A lot of times you're not going to see a corporation in real estate type stuff, but corporations are really a totally different animal, and that's where your tax and your accounting folks really need to talk to your lawyer so that they can decide, hey, from a tax standpoint, what's the most advantageous? But typically in real estate deals, you're going to see pass-through entities like LLCs and limited partnerships.
Yeah. I'll so had two thoughts while you're talking, Christian. The one about making sure you ask your tax accountant about the type of partnership. That recently have learned how important that is. The attorney's paid to protect you, the accountant's paid to optimize you, and it's a marriage usually. And if you're not clear with all that you want and your priorities, your professional will do exactly what you ask them to do, and that's what their core competency is. So I believe in having the team come together for the right solution. The one other thing that I'll say that might sound obvious, but when you're first getting started with these types of opportunities, isn't so obvious. Go to an attorney that specializes in what you're doing. So Christian has a real estate, book of business that he executed before I ever came to him. Because he has experience doing those types of deals, he has, for lack of a better word, templates to start with. Like he doesn't have to go create something from scratch, which leaves room for error. He has a model, and then based on the deal, he kind of stretches or contracts that model, that template that he has from there. And it makes it a better document, and I think it'll ultimately make it cheaper on you. Okay. All right, the next slide here is some costs, risk, hidden responsibilities. I just thought this was an important slide because these are some things that I've just learned along the way that, again, are not so obvious. Like I knew my first transaction where I put together a partnership and we executed that opportunity. I knew there was going to be some attorney fees. Had no idea what those are going to be. And shame on me for not at least saying, hey, attorney, how much do you think this is going to be when the whole deal is done. Because I did a good job of going to a real estate attorney who I used to work with. So I got that right. So that person had experience. What I should have done was, hey, I'm building this budget for this opportunity. How much is it? How much is it going to cost me in the end? I know there's some upfront expenses. There may be in the middle, and then I know there's going to be some expenses at the end. About how much is it going to be? I know you can't tell me till it's over with, but give me a number that I can perfectly budget with. Do that. Do it with your CPA as well. And just understand there's other miscellaneous fees too that come along the way, that unless you're an accountant or an attorney or a seasoned business owner, you're just not going to track those. Some risk that has presented itself to me through some of these partnerships that I think you just got to be ahead of is, one, when you create a partnership and you are the managing partner of that, you better have the time to focus on it, and you better have a way of bringing yourself back to what that intent of the partnership is, what the goal is. Because what you can find yourself doing is being really good at attracting opportunities. You can be really good at attracting investors, and then you can get really good at putting those deals together and then forget that there's a whole operational side of it. And that the more you add to your plate, the more you got to do. And if you don't have a system in place for making sure that you're putting time on it and that you're putting focus on the intent, you're going to run into a problem. And what I have learned that I need to do for all of our opportunities, I got to have a lightweight business plan for every opportunity. And look, and I'm not saying just throw a couple things on paper. I'm saying give it a legitimate sit down and study on a plan. No matter how simple it is, have yourself a plan with a goal and who's involved and what these people care about. And when you have time blocked in your schedule to work on these partnerships, you sit down and you literally take one hat off and put that partnership hat on. And the best way that I've found for me to get into the mindset to put that new hat on was just grab that business plan and look at it real fast. Okay, this is the plan that we have for this partnership together, and just run through it real quick. Make sure that I know again what we're trying to do, and then I ask myself, okay, well, have I hit the priority for these opportunities, and work through that business plan and just make sure I'm staying on priority there. Lost time. There will be a lot of things that cause time that you're just not going to predict. I mean, I've been so frustrated with time extensions that I continue to write these things down so I can be aware of them. But I got news for you. It doesn't matter how prepared or experienced you are. Something is going to find its way into your life that's going to extend the timeline. So I would say when you're doing your pro forma and you're presenting to your client, your partners, that you give them your best guess at what a timeline is. And then as things happen, you just communicate. You just communicate what's going on, do the best you can to explain, and then account for that lost time in any way that you can. Death, divorce. We've had partners get divorced, and I didn't understand personally the complexity of that until I was had to deal with some of that. And luckily, the agreements we had in place were pretty clear about how you handle divorce. And yet I still had to get involved as the partner in their divorce, because those are assets that they have. And you just have to, you play a role in that at that point. You've got to contribute there. And then I would say this last bullet here on the risk, and I made my case for working with wealthy people. Again, it gets really emotional really fast when someone needs their money. And when you're acting as the fiduciary for that partnership and you say it's not the right time, or no, I can't let you have that money. If you're working with people you care about, it's going to be really emotional for you to have to tell them no when you have to tell them no. It's your job to tell them no. So just know that those risks are out there. The hidden responsibilities, kind of the ongoing maintenance that maybe is not obvious, is you got a budget. Just about every month, you're going to have to revise that budget because some things are going to happen that you aren't predicting are going to happen, and some things are coming at different costs. And you're just, every single month, you're going to have to adjust that budget. So just maintaining the financials on that partnership, that's kind of a big task to take on. We used to, and some of these smaller deals, we used to just use a spreadsheet to keep track. Now we've thrown it doesn't matter how small the deal is. We just get a QuickBooks account and we just do it the right way. I've found that it is not worth trying to even manage a small deal not in QuickBooks. We just run it through QuickBooks. If you got partners, run it through QuickBooks. It's easier on your accountant. It's easier on your admin. It's easier on you. Promise you that. Every time we meet with the partners for a specific deal, we remind them of the goals of the partnership. Sometimes even the partners forget what the goal is, and they ask for things that aren't necessarily in line with what we're trying to accomplish. You just got to remind them. That's all. It's just like the same way you lead your team and you constantly remind them of the vision and the mission that we're on. Same deal with your partnership. You remind them of the goals. Reporting frequency. I used to think that people wanted to receive information at the frequency that I wanted to receive them, which is not as often as I found that people like to receive communication. So I will tell you, every time that I have set out to communicate to a partnership, I have overestimated their bandwidth to wait for an update. I'm just gonna tell you, every single time, even when I feel like I'm over communicating from them, I've underestimated what they want to hear at, and not only the frequency, but the amount of information that they would be okay with just kind of like skimming through some stuff and having it, than not having it and wondering where it's at. So the quantity and the frequency, I would just overdo it. And you'll get into a rhythm there. The tax reporting on these partnerships were a bit more than I thought, but I, just ask those questions up front with your tax accountant so they can coach you on that. And then educating your partners. And when I mean educating, I mean explaining the why behind what you're doing, and making sure that they understand how that nests within the goals of the partnership, and just continuing to do that. And then just understand, like, when the partnership's done, you got to close it out. That was not, I had never closed an entity before. So until I had to do that, I didn't even know that was the thing. I thought you just let it go away. You got to close the thing out. So that was one of the first lessons I learned in this whole endeavor. Anything I missed, Christian? Risk, cost, hidden?
I'll just add some comments on divorce and death and people needing money. I mean, again, going back to the documents that get drafted up that govern your partnership, divorce and death need to be dealt with very clearly in those documents. And on people needing money, your document needs to have very clear lines of authority on who makes the decision, so that when someone says, "Hey, I need money," who has the authority to say yes or no. And Schuyler's right. People need money all the time for different reasons. And so I think going back to our comments about not being overextended, it gives you the opportunity to buy people out in the case that they need to be bought out. And that also goes back to having a good deal. If you have a good deal, then you're going to be interested in getting a larger share if someone needs to be out. So having those mechanics, really fleshed out in your agreements is important.
Yep. Okay. This is our last content slide, and then I'm going to share something with you, and then we'll go to questions. But I believe that we've kind of hammered this stuff into the board already. But look, work with wealthy people. My my definition of wealthy in this class that I'm sharing with you all is an accredited investor, which is very easy to Google what that is and just see what it is. I feel like we need to work with accredited investors on these deals. Otherwise, I think you get into a little risky situation with they may need their money, they may need it now. Also, there's reporting requirements that are required if you're not working with accredited investors. And I started reading what those requirements were, and I didn't get through it. I put it down, and I knew that that was not work that I wanted to pay somebody to do. You know, I just moved on from that. I overraise for our investment opportunities. If I need $100,000 for a deal, I'm going to raise $133,000. I do about 33% more than I believe I'm going to need, and I'm okay with a lower return for the risk that that extra capital gives me and gives the partnership. I don't want to have to go back to the partnership and ask them for more money. I want to be able to use the operational funds, the contingency funds, to be able to handle any issues. Under promise and over deliver, that's just sales, but I think it's good for the relationship if you do that. More planned time, I talked about time, and then just honest and very frequent, thorough communications. Those bullets right there are gonna set you up for success. If you just go to the past the question slide. All right. We're going to go back. We're going to answer questions, but I know some people have to go here in a couple minutes. They may have to drop off. Look, we do these classes for free. We do our in-person meetups for free. We're going to send these slides out so that you can get the URLs and all that stuff. But I will say that we take donations. So think of this as going to church. All right. I'm not going to tell you what to give to church. I'm just going to say, I hope that you do give a little of what you've received in your life. So if this is worth $5 to you, send $5. If it's worth 10, 20, 30, send whatever. I'm going to take all of this money and I give it to teachers, 100% of it. And we just give it to a teacher in need. And here in Austin, I know some of you all are not from Austin. In Austin, if a teacher on an average pay scale is single, meaning they don't have a working husband or wife, they can't afford an apartment in Austin. They can't be in Austin for an apartment with their pay. They have to have a roommate. They have to have something else. They can't afford it. So my goal here is to make sure that my kids have talented people teaching, and all of us have talented people teaching. So I take this money and I just give it to teachers. If you all have a better idea of where we can give the money, I'm happy to hear it. But for now, this is what we're going to do. So just to go back to the question slide. What questions you guys have? Was that thorough?
Schuyler, sorry, not a question, but just every time I look at Venmo for the corporate battlefield, I never see it. So I might be doing something incorrectly, but I'm pretty adept at Venmo and just putting that out there.
I'll follow up with you, Kendall. We've
I look like a slacker after every one of these, so I just wanted to contribute.
Schuyler, I just sent you a payment, Schuyler, and it was hard to search for you, but it eventually did pop up. But there was like a lag. But maybe if you just give it a few seconds, so whoever just commented, it did take me a few seconds to I guess to see it.
Okay, thank you.
Hey guys, I can clarify that. If you type in the corporate battlefield, it'll come up pretty quickly.
Thanks, Josh. I appreciate you guys for donating. I mean, if you stay involved in the group, we tell the stories of the people that we share the money with. So feel a little good about that. Okay, well, look, I'll respect everybody's time. We'll sign off now. Hit the corporate battlefield Facebook group. We'll share the slides. Any questions that you have, you all know how to get in touch with me. But I'm grateful that you participated. And remember, there's a battle of good and evil, and we all should be working on behalf of good. So do what you can. Build your wealth, build your leadership, fight for good. Thank you all.